Well, the Director General of the Standards Organization of Nigeria, Joseph Odumodu, joins us this morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Thank you.
I mean, it's shocking to see that those kinds of items being imported, and they're already in the warehouse, by the way.
Yes, of course.
And who knows, one or two persons might have even picked, it might have found its way to one or two people's houses. And then, oh boy, it's a tough job here. What's going on in the world of this?
I mean, if you ask me where we are today, I would say things are getting better. They may not have gotten to where I thought we should be in the last 2 years, but they're a lot better than where we were 2 years ago when we started on this journey. I believe we have some solutions that can help us to get to the end. For example, I had planned to do about 30% this year, but it may not be possible because for some areas where we are focused on, we've actually done better than that. But because of limitations in infrastructure, staff, and all that, what we do is to focus on some what we call life endangering products. You know, for example, you saw cylinders. Today in Nigeria, we've decided that every cylinder must not last beyond 15 years. But we have cylinders of 50 years old. People actually go abroad, purchase cylinders, repaint them, and bring them to Nigeria as if they are new ones.
Wow.
You know, so, but we're doing a requalification exercise with members of the LPG dealers and marketers and all that. And we're also setting up some test centers. You know, so the life endangering products are the major focus. And we've done very well there, but there are also some areas where we've not done well. For example, tires. When I started, you observed that we seized millions of tires, but I've actually kept low. Why? If you get the tires, how do you dispose of them? But right now, we've actually gotten a local person to invest in a shredding plant. And at the end of the day, the person will make money because the tires are shredded and the steel or metallic portions are sold to the steel industry. The rubber is formed into what they call coal, which can be used to fire kilns in cement manufacture. So at the end of the day, the person also makes money investing. So the tire people should better gear up because we're coming after them. I've stopped in the last 1 year because I don't want to get tires and break the law, burning them, which creates an environmental issue. You know, so that's why we've actually kept. So the areas where we have focused on, things have done well, but there are some other areas. Cables, for example, we've not actually done quite well because these guys are very ubiquitous. You stop them at the ports, they go through the borders, and it's tough. And that's why what we have done now is to come up with a very creative electronic product registration system. It's also, if you're anywhere in the world, you can register your products, and then we take the samples and check them out. But what it comes with is there are two kinds of codes. One you can see easily because people are likely to go fake, counterfeit them. And then the others are not easily, except somebody within a company passes it out to the outside. So we'll use scanners to be able to establish the veracity of those. We actually have given a deadline which is expired, but surprisingly, only 5% of the importers have registered. So that also tells me that these guys know what they're doing. And all we're asking people, come forward, bring your samples, we'll test them, and then we put them in our coding system. And subsequent products, whether imported or locally manufactured, must carry those codes. So that anytime we find a product anywhere in Nigeria, we will be able to trace back to either the manufacturer or the importer or everybody who has actually dealt with that product along the line. We call it traceability in standardization. But it's not working. So what I'm going to do in the next few weeks is that I'm going to go into the markets and I will close them if they refuse to register. Because I'm not even interested in operating at the ports or the borders. There's a lot of corruption in these places. I want to get to the markets where these exchanges take place, because wherever any product you bring, you must display for sale, either in a market, open, or supermarket, or whatever. And those products must carry those codes. If you don't have them by the end of the month, if I find them, I will take them and destroy them, because I will actually assume that they are substandard.
Isn't that going to be a little dangerous, because the consumer might get to that point of sale before SON?
Yes. Ultimately, now we've started this process. We expect that by the end of this year, every product in the market should carry a code. I'm not going to, it's not something, but now we have to make the importers to register their products. And then the other thing, which also I need to stress, is what we call product liability. Every product can cause harm, no matter how well intended. And there must be a form of protection that the consumer gets, at the end of the day, if anything goes wrong. So somebody must be responsible for any product in the market. Somebody. Traceable to either a company or an individual, so that if anything goes wrong, then you are the one that will be liable to pay insurance or any form of reparation to the consumer.
While listening to you, I've just been smiling because in the first how many minutes you've touched on almost every area. You've talked about areas you're doing well and areas that you're not doing well. So it's hard to say, so what are you doing in this area? But, let's take a look at some of the critical areas that you've touched on in terms of your focus now. You say you're dealing with life-threatening products.
Yeah.
And you mentioned one of them as cylinders.
Yeah.
Which other ones do you have grave concerns over?
Tires. Because Nigerians go abroad, tires expire, within 4 to 5 years, everywhere in the world, whether used or unused. It doesn't matter whether it's been used or not. And Nigerians go abroad because people discard them abroad. And every country has a challenge of discarding tires. But somehow we are scavengers all over the place. So we fill up containers and ship to Nigeria. So every time you see a kabu, it's always on one expired tire or the other. So tire is another substandard area. Iron rods, blocks. A lot of houses are coming down and people are complaining. They say, hey, what are you doing here? And I tell them, most of the houses that are coming down are houses that were built sometimes 20, 30 years. Of course, a few of them are, recent constructions. But what is happening? Why are buildings not coming down we have 20-story buildings in Via, in Ikoyi, and other. Why are they not coming down? Why are the 2- or 3-story buildings in Lasamaja or, very obscure, high-density areas? Why? Because the artisans who are building these houses want to make profits. And rather than mix 1-2-4, they will mix 1-2-16, put so much sand. So the strength of the material, it fails. And so the building comes down.
So for that kind of a situation, how do you test?
No, we actually test concrete.
Blocks?
You can take concrete that is already formed and test the strength.
So are you now going from building to building to test the strength?
No, what we're trying to do now is that we said every building, we're actually working in a consortium. Architects, engineers, quantity surveyors, and some state governments. Lagos State is actually very active in this area because most of the activity of these failures also had happened in Lagos. So there's a building prevention collapse team, private sector driven, but we're all parts of, members of that. They have members, they have units in all parts of Lagos. Once they see tipper go in one direction, they send somebody to go check. And if it's going to be a building of a story or 2, then we'll make sure that we send people there to check the concrete. But it's expensive because are you going to keep somebody in a site for 1 year? Because every time they're mixing concrete, you have to be there to check that the concrete mixture is the right one. And that's actually where the challenge is. But it's going to be everybody has to be part of this war. Otherwise, it won't work.
That's one of the reasons why I asked you to state it. So that people can, equip themselves and possibly apply a little more caution.
Yeah.
Some people buy substandard products. Oftentimes, or most people buy because they don't know that these things are substandard. So what would be your word to, especially on this, critical areas, this products that you're looking at that could be life-threatening, what would be your word to the consumer?
For example, let me also give another example before cement. Cement has about 3 or 4 categories, but nobody knows. The average consumer doesn't know. We have 32.5, we have 42.5, we have 55. We even have stronger. If you want to build bridges, you don't use for 32.5. You use the stronger, because they set faster and the strength of material is a lot better, But if you walk into the market, all the cement are in the same brown bags. Sometimes they're not even appropriately labeled. So we're also working with the cement manufacturers to ensure that there is either a different color or they put some bands on, so that the consumer. We're going to spend a lot of money. That's going back to your question on consumer education. There are substandard products everywhere in the world, everywhere. The difference is in awareness. The Nigerian consumer is largely unaware. And unfortunately, organizations like us do not have enough money to be able to afford to do all the, awareness creation, because it's a lot of money.